Let's look at number 3, the very bottom of that first worksheet. What we have here is we're going to kind of kill two birds with one stone. So what I have is I have an imperative sentence, but also still a compound sentence, but there's no conjunction this time. So let's take a look at what I gave you. On number 3, it says, pick up an extra pound of goose liver for dinner. We're expecting company. Oh, there's a lot of things going on here that it'll be fun to try to take on. So the first thing I'm noticing is I have two sentences, but I'm joining them not with a comma conjunction. I gave you a semicolon. Now, we're not going to get really heavy into semicolons until Unit 7, which will be almost like May, but just trust the fact that this is going to create a compound sentence. So it's no different from saying comma and or comma so or whatever it would be as a comma conjunction. This time I simply used a semicolon. So I have to look at it and say, okay, I have two separate sentences and I need a diagram. So I'm going to take on the shorter sentence first, which is we're expecting company. And what it does for me is it creates a problem up here because it's not a real long sentence, but it creates a problem because I've never taken on a contraction. And so it says we're expecting company. Well, my verb is we, and then here's my verb, are expecting. But in diagramming, what we're going to do is we're actually going to write it exactly as it's written. So we is my subject, and my verb is not are expecting, but my verb is expecting. It's a little weird, but you write it exactly as it's written in the diagram, or in the actual sentence rather. So if I have an apostrophe and making some kind of contraction, I'd write it that way. So we are expecting is what you're really saying, but because it's in a contraction form, we'll write it that way. My direct object is company because expecting is an action verb. So the are is just simply the helper to get into my main verb expecting. So I'm going to put a straight line here, and I'm going to put company here. And once again, we've talked about pattern 7s before, where this is my direct object and it's not renaming or anything with the word we. That's why it's a straight line because it's an action verb. It's also letting me know that is not the same as the subject. So we are expecting company. All right. First part of the sentence, though, is a little trickier. So here I have a verb, which looks like it's going to be pick, and then I don't have a subject. Like, oh, okay, you don't have a subject. I'm going to change my color so I can see two different colors here. This is fun. And so I'm going to put this bad boy right here. So I don't have a subject. So right now it looks like my verb is pick. Sorry about that. Let me change that. So there's my verb pick, and it looks like I have a bunch of prep phrases. For dinner, of goose liver, and it looks like I have a prep phrase which is up a pound. But I don't think that's the same thing as like saying of goose liver or for dinner. I don't think anyone's saying up a pound. No, I think something's off there. So what I'm thinking is pick up might be my whole verb, and my direct object is, hey, pick up. Because I'm picking up an extra pound of goose liver. So let's treat pick up as all one big verb. We know this is what we call a phrasal verb. We would also refer to this as an idiom. Because remember, the word up is now really a particle. Because really what you're saying is purchase. Purchase an extra pound of goose liver. Get an extra pound of goose liver. I can see that pick up is all one big verb. All right, so I've taken care of the verb pick up, and now I say, oh, okay, then I must have a direct object. And as much as I want to put goose liver here, I can't because it's in a prep phrase. I can't even put dinner in here and say, hey, pick up dinner because it's in a prep phrase. This is one of those rare times it's kind of wonky sounding, but you have to put either an, extra, or pound here. And so my most important noun there is pound. It's actually the only noun you have there in that listing of 3. And so I'd say, okay, what kind of pound? It's an pound, which sounds weird, but that's how it is because an is a determiner for a noun. It's not describing the word extra. The reason we use the word an is because extra starts with an E, but still it's an pound, and then we'd say extra pound. All right, and then it is an extra pound. It's a pound of goose liver. So here's my next prep phrase of liver, goose liver. Of liver, goose liver. And then you have for dinner. Well, for dinner has some flexibility to it. It's right next to the word liver. Could it be goose liver for dinner? Absolutely. Could it be a pound for dinner? Absolutely. You could take this whole thing and build it off of pound. Could you be picking it up for dinner? Yeah, I could do that as well. All those make sense. I'm going to slide mine over here because I have some room. But there's nothing wrong with saying it's a pound for dinner or it's a goose liver for dinner. I'm going to put it here and say I'm picking it up for dinner. but you could certainly move it somewhere else and you would be correct. The last thing we have is that we don't have a subject. So if you remember how we took on pattern 8 and we have a missing word 2 or a missing word 4, you have a couple choices in diagramming. Anytime you're missing a word, you can leave it blank, you can replace it with an X, or you can put the word that's missing in parentheses. So you're okay leaving this blank. You don't have to put anything in the subject slot at all. You're also okay putting an X there, which is my favorite choice. Putting an X there, letting me know, hey, there's a missing word. You can also, get rid of that, put in parentheses the missing word, which might be like, hey, you, which is typically what happens in an imperative sentence. You pick up an extra pound of goose liver. All those are possibilities. All right, so you can put you can put an X there, or you can leave it blank. Lastly, it's a compound sentence. With a compound sentence, I know I have to join verb to verb, the dotted line. Once again, doesn't matter how it gets there, as long as it gets there. Joining pick up to are expecting. All right, so I got to connect those two. And then I got to put my conjunction on the line. But I don't have a conjunction. I have no conjunction in this sentence at all to join those two sentences together. So you don't put anything on the line. The temptation sometimes is to put that punctuation mark. People are like, should I put the semicolon on the line? No, don't. Just leave it blank. We don't put any punctuation in our diagrams except for an apostrophe. So there's no period or anything like that. We just simply leave it as it is. So when you draw this for me, as a diagrammer, I would look at it and say, okay, this must be some kind of compound sentence, but there's no conjunction. So that either means that you used a semicolon, or maybe you use something else like a dash or a colon to join those two sentences together. So there's some other alternatives, but by not putting anything on the line, you're letting me know that it's still a compound. It's just joined in a different way as opposed to a comma conjunction. So this is fine as it is as we finished it right now. All right, so once again, I have a nice little pattern 7 on this side. You pick up pound, subject, action, verb, direct object, and I have a pattern 7 on this side. And once again, that's what happens. We just have lots of 7s. So we're expecting company. Pattern 7 and pattern 7. We're going to switch over to the back page, and we're going to take a look at another problem we might have, which would be an inverted sentence. Let's take a look at what's going on there.